Hello and welcome to the Beyond Resistance pod, where we share hard-won insights to build blue power in red communities and start winning. I'm Jennifer Austin, and if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that Sarah is not here. For those of you who are listening, you're not going to hear Sarah's voice for this first section. Now, we did record a pod last week, a conversation that you're going to hear next, and Sarah was with that. But for this, she is currently touring college campuses with her teen children because we are both in that part of life where our babies will be going off to college soon. And it's a little sad, a little exciting, but I know Sarah's having a good time looking at some colleges with her kids. In the meantime, I'm going to do what has me fired up, which I gotta tell you, just it feels a little lackluster doing this by myself. I would so much rather be doing this with Sarah. But having said that, I will tell you what has me fired up today. I have been talking to young people across the country who are thinking of or running for office or just in the beginning stages of it's 2026, midterms are coming up. People are planning what they want to do. And I've been talking to a lot of people across the country who are looking to run for office. And it's really exciting. That's why I say I'm fired up. It's really exciting. Now, a lot of people are running in places that it's going to be real hard. We're talking, R+20, R+17, R+7. These are not going to be easy rows to hoe kind of a thing. But all these special elections have me kind of excited to see what kind of a swing. Now, we're not going to get a 30-point swing in Republican districts like we did in that district where Taylor Remitt won for the Texas Senate. That was a special election. Fewer people come out, votes depressed because of the things that Trump has been doing. And so we don't know for sure what's going to happen in November of 2026. Are people going to be even more upset with the Trump administration? Will he do something that will, I guess, like redeem him in the eyes of some voters? I know for those of us that are on the Trump derangement syndrome train, there's nothing that he could ever do that would redeem him in any way, shape, or form. But, for some people, they don't have the, I don't want to say critical thinking skills because that's not fair. They're inured in the right-wing propaganda. And as much as that's still their fault, we do have to understand that the Kool-Aid's strong. And we even have to be careful of it on our own side, not to drink the blue Kool-Aid too much. And just be aware of things that we need to think critically about and not just ride the Democratic train and say everything's fine, because we know that's not true. But back to the young people. And when I say young people, I just mean people that are not part of the gerontocracy. I think Americans are showing that they're really not happy with the kleptocracy that Trump is initiating, along with all of his fascism. But they are even more so not happy with the gerontocracy. Chuck Schumer has served in the Senate for many, many years, and he's done a good job. And there are things that even in the last, year that he's done well, I would say that it's time for him to step down. There's a whole lot of other older senators and Congress people, and whether we're talking state or national, mostly national, but, still in states too, and judges too, for that matter. I mean, I respect your work ethic if you're 94 and still working, and some people are effective at that, but come on, go retire. Enjoy your retirement. Spend time with your spouse, your kids, your grandkids. Go travel. It's time, and it has been time. it has been time that it is time for younger people. And when I say younger, I'm talking 20, 30, 40, 50. I mean, even 60 at this point doesn't seem so bad. When we're talking like most of the people in Washington for Congress and Senate are 70, 80, and a few are in their 90s. I mean, that just doesn't make sense. You're too far out of touch of what people in these other generations, their experiences. You're too far out of touch with that. You're probably wealthy, so you're out of touch with what basic people are dealing with every day. And it's just time that we had a more diverse representatives to make sure that all of our voices are heard. And yes, diversity, and I know MAGA's gonna like, oh my God, diversity. Yes, diversity means people of color, and it also means women, and it also means people who have less money, or, a school teacher instead of a lawyer, or a construction worker instead of a doctor. We need smart people in elected positions, but a college degree doesn't necessarily mean that you are smart. Or conversely, not having a college degree doesn't mean that you're, not smart. Some of the smartest people I know don't have college degrees. We need a wide variety of people representing us so that all of these ideas can be heard. And something that we had talked about on our pod when Susanna Shkreli was on. And I hadn't even thought of this either because I live it's a city, but it's a small city. I think we have 42,000 people here. But Susanna was talking about how people in small communities, especially in northern Michigan, didn't feel like they needed to have 9 days of early voting because there's not a lot of people and they don't they get like one person that comes to vote in that day, and they've just spent all this money and time and energy to make it available. Now, I still believe that early voting needs to be available for everybody, partly because it's in the Constitution, but also because I think it's just a necessary thing. But we have to figure out how to make that less intrusive in communities that aren't going to get the large numbers. For example, here in Midland, we just had a special election, and our county clerk said, sure, we'll have 9 days of early voting, but setting up the voting center for that to happen it's just not going to work. It doesn't make sense. We know we're not going to get that many people. So she set it up so that you could go to the city council building, I believe, the city building, I believe, and vote there. So you were able to vote early, but they didn't have to set up a whole special system for all of the people that were going to vote early because there just weren't that many. So I'm sorry, I keep digressing from the young people talk, but it's just all of this, just having people of different experiences all in the mix so that we can talk about issues and find the reasons and the things that we need to change and okay, here's my proposal. Oh, but I didn't think of that. And you have experience with it. Great. You can give me some advice and we can make this better. So yeah, that's what has me fired up. A lot of young people coming out to get involved and especially to run for office. We just had an announcement of a neighboring state house district that is very, very red, that a young man decided to run against the incumbent. It's going to be very difficult district because even that Republican is not particularly despised in their community. For one thing, it's a very Republican community, but even the Democrats, like I know Democrats in that community that consider him a friend. So he's mild compared to some of these MAGA guys that are out there. But still, you want to have Democrats running for so many reasons. Just showing that there are other choices, talking about issues that maybe Republicans wouldn't talk about if there wasn't a Democrat there. And from an organizer standpoint, having numbers that we can say, okay, this person didn't really run much of a campaign, and this is the numbers they got. Or this person did run a really hard, strong campaign, and look at the progress they made or did not make, or whatever the case may be. Having data makes a huge difference. So we love it when people run in districts that they probably aren't going to win, but we do need to know, if we run a Democrat, how close can we get? And this election, I mean, if you are a Democrat in a red district, this is the time to run. Yeah, we're going to flip some seats. I really believe we're going to flip some seats across the country, especially where they've maybe gerrymandered themselves out of a safe district. Because I think it's going to be a blue wave. But we've got to have some candidates, and not just any candidate. We've got to have good candidates, and we've got to have people that are appealing to a wide variety of people in the electorate. So, all right, that's what has me fired up. Please stay tuned for our conversation with Michelle Glogovac. She is a podcaster, and you're going to hear all about her. And she's done a lot more than podcasting, but you're going to hear all about her in a minute. So stay tuned. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the pod today. And we have a new guest. She is Michelle Glogovac. She interestingly spent 18 years in corporate aviation selling jet fuel to corporate flight departments and decided that was not what she wanted to do. Moved on to other things, including she's an author, an activist, a podcast publicist, a podcaster, and she's founder and CEO of the MLG Collective and MLG Collective Podcast Network. She's known as the Podcast Matchmaker, TM. She has 2 books under her belt: How to Get on Podcasts and the Podcast Campaign Tour. Her podcasts are Read the Damn Book, Beyond the Campaign, and Burnt. She's also a wife and mother of 4 kids, so I can relate to that one. Welcome to the pod, Michelle.
Welcome. Thank you. I am excited to talk to you ladies.
So is there anything that I didn't include in that intro that you think everybody needs to know about you?
You covered a lot of it. I was like, oh, I do that too.
I know. I feel like I could say this about everybody that we interview, but it's kind of like, do you sleep? Do you eat?
Yeah.
Do you take a break?
Michelle's like, oh, wow, I must be exhausted.
Yeah, what did I commit to with the PTA this morning before I jumped on this?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, I need to rethink that text I sent.
Mm-hmm.
That's always a good thing. Well, Michelle, welcome. Thank you so much again for your time. Time is such a precious thing, and we're just looking forward to this conversation so much. The thing that I'm the most curious about is this moniker, the Podcast Matchmaker, which I love so much. I wonder if you could just kick us off by telling us how you came by that moniker. How do you think podcasts can change the narrative in this country, and how can they bring about change?
The title came from realizing what it is that I do is really matchmaking. And I have matchmade a couple of couples who have gotten married over the years.
Okay.
And what I do in my business is I connect my clients who have an interesting story, something they can teach others, skills that they can teach others, to podcast hosts whose audience want to hear from them, can learn from them, need to hear from them. Mm. And I realized that it truly is matchmaking. And I kind of ran with it. I went, yep, I'm the podcast matchmaker. It is now a registered trademark. I own it. And so I totally embraced it. I loved it. I was like, yep, that's going to be me. And so that is what I am known as, because I look at both sides. I don't just go in blindly with a podcast that we pitch to. We listen to every show that we pitch to so that we can relate to them. And I think that that's what a good matchmaker does, is they know both parties in order to connect the two. And when it comes to podcasts, I think that having the ability to listen to stories, to get to know people in their own words, we get to eavesdrop on conversations, because I'm a big eavesdropper. I love sitting at a restaurant and going, oh, you'll never guess what's happening over there. And a podcast allows us to do that. So I think that not only is it accessible because it's free to listen to and to hear on any subject or topic that you want to. But, right now in our country, we have a lot of people who are quiet about what they believe in, or they're very vocal about what they believe in. They're not listening to the other side for one reason or another. Maybe they're not allowed to. We don't know what their home life is like, but a podcast lets them. And, it's that secretive, oh, you know what? I can hear what they're saying, why they're saying it, what their story is. Maybe I can build that horrible E word, empathy, and recognize, someone else, what they've gone through. And a podcast allows us to do that. And so, we've seen the bad stuff with podcasts and what this last cycle in the election did. And unfortunately, we have those loud ones. The podcasts are a blessing and a curse. Anyone can start one. Anyone can start one. So
no doubt.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love what you're saying about eavesdropping, because that's honestly how Jennifer and I got started with this podcast. Not that we were eavesdropping, but we would just get together and just like just talk about everything we've been doing and all the conversations we were having, and we pull in our local leaders, and we just keep talking, and eventually we were like, you know what, this might be interesting for other people to listen to as well. And that's really how we got started. We just started recording these conversations, and sometimes you'll hear us, we have a segment called Fired Up. You'll hear us get just worked up as if we were just at a coffee shop together, just like we would have, whether or not we had microphones in our faces. And I think that there's something about like the realness of it all here. Like, you're right. It's like listening in on a conversation that's true and authentic and genuine when it's done really well. And I think that there's like, it's a great substitute for all the disingenuousness in the world. So that's a really cool way to think about it, as sort of eavesdropping in on a good conversation, and maybe you can learn something. So, yeah.
Yeah, and the empathy part I can really relate to. I think I've always been a left-leaning person, but there was a time when I was like, I'm not part of any party. I'm an independent. I'll, vote for whichever candidate I think is the best. I always tended to vote for Democrats, but there were times in my life when I had voted for Republicans. And about 2006, I started writing. I'm a science fiction and fantasy writer, as well as apparently a podcast host. And I really started like getting connected to other authors and seeing other books and whatever, and talking a lot about promoting books for marginalized groups. And at first I was like, well, I'm not opposed to it, but I don't really understand why we need to do that. So because I didn't understand something, then I started intentionally learning more about it. And, connecting with people and learning more about racism and, my white privilege backpack and just so many different things that I had literally never thought about. And I can see, like, I didn't listen to podcasts back then, but I can see like where podcasts now can take that place of Twitter, where I was connecting with a whole bunch of people from around the country and the world who were writing and learning new things and teaching me new things, and I was teaching them new things and whatever. So like, yeah, that podcast, I can see that being a connection point for building empathy and building education that people can't necessarily get in their day-to-day lives, especially those of us who live in a pretty darn white rural area.
Yeah.
Yeah, because where else are we going to hear these stories? If you don't have a friend who is different than you, then how are you going to ever hear what their upbringing was like, or what it is to, raise a child, or whatever it is that they go through on a daily basis? If we don't have that directly in our lives, then we don't know. We don't get to hear that story. And so hearing it on a podcast, now we get to know, we get to have that experience and to really broaden our own lives.
Yeah, that is like, it's just such an important part of really, any sort of medium, but I can see podcasts especially because it's so accessible and it's your own words. It's your voice. It's like, it's that human connection of you can either see and or hear, this is a real person, not just black and white words on a page.
Yeah. And Michelle, the work that you do is so important because it's so new. So like we've experienced this like navigation and like what do we even do and what's the technology and how do we get people to be on the thing, and like does it even, are we just screaming into the void, is anyone even paying attention? It's just a very new, I mean, it's like not, it's new as far as like the most recent wave of folks out here doing it. It's obviously been around for a good long time, but this accessibility to like anyone being able to do it, but in order to like do it well and in a sustainable way, there's like learning from that. And so the role that you can play in that for other folks trying to be on podcasts or understand the podcast world is super, super helpful.
Thank you. And even 7 years later, I still wonder if I'm speaking into a void. So,
So we shouldn't feel too bad, is what you're saying.
No, I'm still surprised when somebody gives me feedback or says, "Oh, I loved that interview." And I'm like, "Oh, somebody listened. That's great." Yeah.
Yay. Well, we have a couple personal cheerleaders that text us. So they help keep us going. And I do check my podcast numbers all the time, but also maybe
I do too, but I feel like they're imaginary. I'm like, I don't know where they get these numbers from.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or like when you do something and it gets big numbers, and you do something similar, it gets not big numbers, and you're like, like, what's the difference here? It was like almost the same kind of thing. So just it's very mysterious, this whole world, for all of us out here.
So, Michelle, one of the services that you provide is you help authors, activists, political candidates to create a podcast tour to get their message out. Can you tell us more about that and why you focus on change makers and political candidates in particular?
I think that we all have a story to tell. And I really want to get to know the people, whether it is an author. Yeah, we'll talk about your book, but I want to hear about you, because to me, someone like an author is a celebrity. I love books, as you can tell by my bookshelves. And, we don't get to know them. We don't recognize them on the street as we do an actor or an actress. And so to get to hear them and the parts of them that are in their book, I think is amazing. And when it comes to our political candidates, we know where they stand on issues. It's all over their websites. I'm like, boring. Okay. But tell me about you. What is that conversation like with your partner when you said, I'm going to run? Because I know what that conversation would be like in this house. So what made that decision
We've
happen?
had those conversations.
Yeah. So why, why would you want to take on this horrible customer service job? It's literally the worst, because although I will praise you and reprimand you, most other constituents are just going to reprimand you. That's the fact. That is when you're going to hear from them. So why would you want to do this? And I think being able to hear in their own words why they want to do this, what is their biggest issue and why is it the one that is the biggest for them? What is their family life like? Do you have kids? Are they canvassing with you? Do they understand what you're doing? And how's it going to be if you're not going to be home as much? Whether you're male or female, I ask the same questions because, I know that so often we'll be, a woman, a mother, how are you doing this at home? Well, dads too, my congressman, he's a father of two. His wife is a judge. So they both have huge jobs. How do you do it together? Because this isn't the wife is at home and doing, the motherly home wife things. No, that we're all working women too. So I think having these conversations really allows us to get to know who is going to represent us. And is this the person we want to represent us? Especially on the local level. I know you both interview a lot of your local politicians, and so many people don't pay attention to the local elections. We have a school board trustee who is a Moms for Liberty backed individual because people saw her name on all the boards, but nobody was paying attention. And it infuriates me. So I think that having podcasts, having these elected officials, candidates coming on so we can get to know them is so absolutely important. And, whether you are local, get on podcasts because you don't know who's going to listen. It might not be that I live in Michigan. I've had one of the gentlemen running for your governor on my show, and I'm in California, but I know people in Michigan. I now know both of you. So you could be listening and, let it spread far and wide. And on top of that, I also like to remind candidates that you don't know what you're going to run for next. So don't be too localized when you're pitching yourself. But I think that these are the most important things, to just connect on this truly basic human level. And that is why we need to be doing this when it comes to political candidates. And I work with everyone the same way. I want to hear your story. I onboard them with a Google form, but then we have an hour-long Zoom that's like a therapy session where I'm asking them questions. I say, tell me your story, and then from there I'll pick out, oh, that's really good. This is what's going to get people. I want to hear more of this. And I just take it from the angle of someone who's going to listen and pay attention and what piques my interest. And we go from there.
I think that's very similar to what we do. And I had some of our local candidates that were in a special election recently that they've been on, and some of our comments on social media where you didn't ask them about any of the issues. I want to know about their issues. And I didn't really respond at the time, and then I couldn't find the comments again, because you get so many. Like at one point, it's like, okay, I just can't respond to everything. But anyway, I got, Sarah and I got talking, and we're like, but that's actually not why we started this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We started this podcast to help people build blue power in red communities and give this space to candidates to for people to get to know them. And not that I don't care what their issues are, but I can push them on an issue. Once they're elected or, later on, whatever, there are opportunities for issues, but that's not really what we're about. I want to know about your kids. I want to know about how you're dealing with this. I want to know about the jobs you had before that got you to this point and what made you want to do this sort of thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
Especially that last part, right? Like in this divisive, polarized, really hard world of politics today, why are you jumping into this arena? What is it that's motivating you to? And I speak to that from a former candidate who was in just an ugly battle here for the Michigan House, and I lost, and I lost twice, but we moved the needle so much that we're able to build on that momentum. But I know what it's like to literally get mailer after mailer in your own mailbox with photoshopped pictures of yourself looking like a witch because of course, right? And so I just appreciate everyone who is willing to know that and jump into the arena. And I just want to know why. What's the motivation behind that? To me, that's the most interesting question that we can ask folks these days who are running for office.
The mudslinging always gets me. I don't understand. And as a mom, I always say this as a mom, and my husband's like, it's not just because you're a mom, it's because you're a decent human being. To see those mailers come and my kids get the mail and go, well, why is our mayor on here? He didn't say that. He does not like that. Yep, I know. And that's because I think that if that's what you have to do as your campaign tactic, then you really have nothing to stand on. You're really, then you're going to lose. If that's the only way that you think you can win is by attacking someone personally, then you shouldn't be running.
Well, yeah. And so then imagine that it's you that's running and you are the one getting the mailers. And my son and my daughter were pretty little at that time, and they were seeing all of that and trying to explain and shield, and your kids want to defend their mom and they can't. And that's part of the hardest part of it for me was I could not defend myself, right, in ways that I really wanted to. And it's just a really rough arena, and I have so much appreciation to folks who are willing to do that. And I want to hear those stories so much, for sure. So thank you for putting those stories out there across the country. They're so important. One of the things that about the kind of the amazing things about what you do is that although you're obviously running a business with services and books that help people get their message out to the world, you also offer up free resources on your website that people can download, which is so wonderful. I wonder if you could shed some light on that thinking behind the strategy of giving sort of some knowledge and insight away for free when you could, otherwise encourage folks to buy your book or, book your services and that sort of thing.
I learned a long time ago, and this was, you look back and you're like, well, really, should I give it all away? But Amy Porterfield used to say, if you give a lot away for free, then it should have people thinking, wow, what am I going to get if I actually pay her?
Mm.
And so, I can give you all of the knowledge that I have all day long, but you still have to implement it. You still
Yeah.
have to do the actual work. You have to build your media kit. You have to create your speaking topics. You have to research the podcasts. You have to pitch them. You have to do all of these other things. So if you're not willing to do them, then that's what I'm here for. And then the book will tell you exactly how to do it step by step with templates, but you still have to go and implement it all yourself.
Yeah.
So I don't feel that it's ever taken business away from me. I think it's still brought business. People have bought my book and said, that's great. I can't do that. So I'm just going to work with you instead. But your book was great. So that's really the goal. And I want to make it so that it's not just that everybody can do it themselves, but that they do it the right way. Because as you know, podcasting is still the wild, wild west. There is no rules to any of this. You have a microphone, you can hit record, out it goes. And the same thing goes with pitching. And so when I set out to write the book, to create a standard, to say that this is the acceptable way to pitch a podcast. And that if you're copying and pasting, if you're throwing spaghetti at the wall, you can't get their name right, you're not listening to an episode before, then you shouldn't be doing this. You have no business doing it. And as a host, we shouldn't accept that. I really believe we shouldn't accept anything that doesn't say, hello, Michelle, I loved listening to whatever episode it is. This is why. If it's not, I have a bad guest request folder on my computer, and that is where they go. And sometimes they will be highlighted in my Substack, because I want to show people this is not okay. There's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And so I want to set that standard, because that's the expectation I have. If you want to come on my show, this is how you need to do it.
That reminds me a lot of, as a writer, having to pitch agents or publishers. And I have written hundreds, if not thousands of those letters. And you have to research. You can't just throw spaghetti at the wall, like you say. It's you need to know who you're trying to pitch to, if they're even interested. I mean, there's so much information out there. You really do have to do it right.
And if you can get that little detail that nobody else has. When I was querying agents, I did all of this research. I was researching each agent really specifically. And there was one who I found out she rode in college. And so I included that in my query to her, because I rode in college. And I thought that was the coolest. This is one of my favorite memories in college, was being the coxswain of the rowing team. And she came back to me. It wasn't a yes for the book, but she goes, how'd you find that out? That it got her. And I said, well, now you see, I'm really good at what I do. And that is why.
Yep. I have for sure done that too.
Yes. It will get people to pay attention if you take that extra step. And it doesn't take that much more time to go do a Google search and, find something out.
Yeah. Yeah. The stuff that I do in my day job is human resources. I do HR consulting for nonprofit organizations across the country. And that same advice can apply to job interviews, right? So that you can show up in a way that you can personalize the experience, and it doesn't change your credentials and what you're bringing to the potential job. But if you kind of exist kind of indelibly in somebody's memory because there was a personal connection that was made, that can only help you out with the search and the process. So that's
And if it's a real connection, like with you and this agent, rowing is a big thing. Like, I have a niece who rowed in high school, and that's a big thing. That's like if we go someplace and she hears somebody else it was a rower, she's all over it.
So there was a mom at school the other day that I didn't know, and she had on the sweatshirt of the team that I rowed for. And I was like, "Excuse me, hello, what year?" And now we're friends. It was, oh, you did, perfect. I did. About 10 years apart, but still.
Yeah.
That's amazing. The other thing that you sort of publishing things out there for free makes me think of the blueprint that we publish in our on our website that we worked on kind of as we were launching the podcast, which is kind of a bit of a organizing primer for kind of red to blue organizers. It's basically 5 steps to building blue power. And we publish that for free. And we really try to it's just good information. And to us, the end to all of these means is to have more, communities, like literally doing or learning from what we were able to do to help move the needle locally, because that moves the needle on up the chain. And so Jennifer and I also go to a lot of county party meetings. So it's a super, super local level to do presentations to talk about building blue power and our 5 steps and what we've been able to learn and grow here. So I think like all of that just builds on each other. So it's kind of within the same philosophy of like giving out information for free, because then it helps to just grow the reach that we're looking for, not only to get the learning out there, but to just like build our business and all of that stuff.
Yeah. And I have to say, so on that subject of like researching the people that you're going to have on your podcast or a podcast that you want to be on, when we were connecting about having you on our podcast, I'm going to go research everything. So I have been listening to your podcast.
Yeah.
And in fact, the first time I listened to Burnt, I listened to it, and the whole time I'm like, yes. And I like texted Sarah. I'm like, I found another one. This one's amazing. Like, I love it. It was so good. I was so excited. But so you do that with Lauren Lehman, and you tackle heavy issues in a very raw and personal and real way that I super love. So what is it about the time we are in right now that makes Burnt so relatable to people, and what can they take from that for their activism to help build blue power in their communities?
Well, Lauren and I, we've never actually met in person, so that's a fun fact. We are meeting on Wednesday for the first time.
Oh my gosh,
that's awesome!
We'll be meeting for the very first time, so prepare for social media photos everywhere. But we connected online, and then we were FaceTiming, and we both were upset about what's going on, and I already had my shows, and I was like, do you want to do one with me? Because we just need to show up and talk. And we don't plan a thing out. We get on, and she'll go, what should we talk about? I go, let's not just hit record, because whatever we think we're going to talk about, then it goes somewhere else. And there's always so much to talk about, every single week, that it's like a train wreck nonstop. And I think that people need to hear from other people of, this is what we are, 2 white moms living in the suburbs. We have almost the same age kids. Both of us have been business owners. She had a wedding planning business that she gave up to be full-time activism. I have my business, and having those backgrounds on top of being moms, on top of seeing what's going on and not being okay with it, of, how do we talk to friends and family members who are okay with it? And, do we even talk to them? What is all of that
for
like?
the ages?
Right. So, I think it's showing people that you can show up, period. And have these conversations. It's allowed, I think, other women to listen to us, to reach out to us, to talk to us about what we've talked about, but also to talk to each other and say, what? Yeah, what are your thoughts on this? Because I think there is this shield that gets put up of, we're not going to talk about whatever's going on. We don't know who we can talk to, unless they're wearing a shirt that says, like, I don't agree with this. I didn't vote for him. Then who do you talk to, and how far can you go? And if you haven't been vocal all this time, then people don't really know, or you don't know how to put yourself out there and say, no, I'm not okay with this. How do I make that known? And to let people know that that's okay. It's okay that you haven't, but now it's kind of pass the time. Let's all
Yeah.
talk about it. Let's get out there. Let it be known, to be that person. And I think that's what Lauren and I bring to the table. And, we say we're unhinged, and sometimes we're a little unhinged, and there's some F-bombs that get dropped, but we're also just two nice women. We try to be kind as the way we show up, but we also say that being kind isn't enough. So how do you show up, be a kind person, but be a decent human being? I think that's the most important.
I love that one of the things that I think you show, and I think Sarah and I show, whether it's in our podcast or in the activism we do here in our community, is that there's a difference between being kind and being a doormat. You can be kind and still be super tough. And, I use swear words. I was recently told that I swear too much in speeches. I don't agree, but whatever. I'll take the feedback.
We're still discussing that one.
We're still discussing this. Not bitter. I'm fine. I'm fine. But anyway, there's going to be all different kinds of activists and all different kinds of leaders, and showing that we can all do this work in our own way. And sometimes turning the other cheek is okay. And sometimes putting up your fist is okay. And I think that we can show that through a lot of the things that all of us say and do.
Yeah.
And it's a learning process too. I'm sorry. I was going to say, it's not that we knew how to do any of this. I certainly didn't think, I can just talk to say yesterday at the Super Bowl party, there was a MAGA. Literally, he had the jersey and on the back it said MAGA. And my sweatshirt said "For the People." It's something I've had made. And he came up to me and said, "For the people." It's like "We the people." And I said, "It's not we the people. It absolutely is not." And he goes, "Well, yeah, for the people, we the people." I go, "No, we the people is exclusive. For the people means everybody. It means that I'm standing up for your daughter, your son, my daughter, my son, and all of our neighbors. Everybody here at this party. That's for the people. That's not we the people." And he goes, "Oh, I could possibly get behind that." And I went, "Oh my goodness." And my husband goes, "Wow, you stood your ground. And I'm kind of impressed that you didn't back down." But I didn't go into knowing that I knew he would be there, but I didn't know that these conversations would happen.
Yeah.
And you never realize, what am I going to say in that moment? I have no idea, whereas another woman came up to me later. She goes, "I really want to sit by you, but he wouldn't leave your side." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. Yeah. Apparently I attracted the MAGA yesterday, and hopefully something rubbed off on him."
Yeah.
Because I let him know who Bad Bunny was too.
I was going to say, did he watch the halftime show?
Oh, yes. Yes.
All right.
And I had prefaced it with some other women and my husband. I go, "If the channel gets changed, I am out. I am leaving. We are departing. No questions asked." And it was on, and there was a dance party, and I was like, "Yes,
nice,
yes." Okay. So, I think that's a big part too, is to go, it's okay to not know how you're going to react in a situation, but then to be able to see examples of, someone else did it. I can do it too. And I can be polite and respectful in the way I approach it, but I can also stand my ground and say, we're not the same.
Yeah.
I've gotten so much better at that over the years, and it's practice. For everybody out there who's like, "I never know what to say." There was a time I never knew what to say. There are still times I don't know what to say, but there are times that I've practiced enough that I've got words in my head, and I've got the ability to tamp down that initial that anger that comes up. So yeah, it's partly practice.
Yeah, those conversations are so important. So it's not just you and that MAGA jersey man. It's like everyone around you seeing it and hearing it, seeing the result of it, holding space for it, being a model for it. Not that you did it perfectly, there's no perfection here, but I think those conversations are so important, and especially in red areas, where Jennifer and I are in the middle of Michigan. There was a time before we started doing all this activist work where you were out to dinner and you kind of were like, "I don't think I should even talk about politics with my family, because who knows who's around me at different tables," right? That's how hush hush it used to be here. And all of us folks who are progressive or Democrats or whatever we call ourselves thought we were alone on an island, surrounded by in a Red Sea, essentially, until we started to find each other and started to have the conversations to the point where just this weekend, Midland had a performance here of Sweet Honey in the Rock on Thursday. It's a wonderful a cappella Black women's group that has been around since the 1970s. And the music was amazing. But what was additionally amazing was this woman who is in her 70s got up. She was one of the original people of this group. And she did a rap about ICE. I mean, it was just like about immigration and ICE and Minneapolis and all the things in Midland, which is like, we say we're trending blue, but we're still like kind of a light blue space. And I was looking around like, this could not have happened
How's this gonna go
10 years
over?
ago. This for sure would not. And nobody got up and left, right? And it was just really, really, really cool that she was like modeling like how you just say like this bullshit is happening and I can't just have this performance without saying something about it here in the middle of this state, in the middle of the city that's I don't even know the politics of. It was super, super courageous, and I appreciate it so much that like those kinds of things and conversations just need to continue to happen. There's so much power in them. Yeah.
That reminds me, Sarah, of the Ren Fair that we recently had. So there's two high schools in our town. We're on the technically more conservative side of town. We're still a
Mm-hmm.
blue city, but just barely. But there's more conservatives on our side of town. So our high school tends to be a little more conservative. Well, they had part of it's like a talent show, but they
Yeah.
have
Big talent show.
a big
Yeah.
talent show, but then they have somebody in between, like they do like an act where it's like a play, so like that introduces each act. Well, they said the one girl got up and was talking about, I need to stand up for my rights, I need to protest, I need to do whatever, and it was leading into the song Keep Marching from Suffs that the choir was going to sing, which first of all, the choir sang Keep Marching.
Yeah.
And, they incorporated all of this in, and like a bunch of people stood up, including myself. My husband's like, sit down. Nobody else is standing up. And I'm like standing up, like clapping and like cheering. And I don't know what other people around me thought, but I didn't care. I was so excited. And there were a lot of screaming and clapping for not only what this young woman said about protesting, but then when they sang Suffs, and it was like, oh, my little activist heart is just pitter pattering.
Yeah.
I love that. It has to come from our young people.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's so cool to see, especially in this area, especially just with the growth that we've had. It just makes my heart so happy when I can remember just the 2016 election and leaving my house and going to the grocery store and just like giving stink eyes to every person because I just assumed that every one of them had voted for Trump. To this day, I can look around and just be like, we can be in a space and we can have a woman rapping about ICE and, have a group of high schoolers sing about marching. And it just feels really great, the evolution that we've been able to see here. Not that we've been responsible for all of it, but that we've been on the ground helping to make happen. It's been awesome. Okay, so it is our tradition for our last question to be just kind of light and silly, kind of question that helps, to your point, Michelle, earlier, like helps our listeners get to know all of us a little bit better. So I'm always the one that has to come up with a question.
Hey, I come up with all the other ones, so you can do this.
I know, right? So Jennifer does all the other questions, and I do the last question, so I shouldn't complain. This one, I was thinking about podcasts and also about just different kind of hobbies and interests. And so my question is to think about one obscure hobby or interest of yours that we might not know about that you wish there was a whole podcast devoted to. So what one example of an obscure hobby or interest that you wish there was a whole podcast devoted to?
That's tough because I think that there's literally a podcast on everything. So
Well, and the
like
caveat
my
is there might already be a podcast, but
yeah, my
yeah.
random hobbies would be, and I haven't done it a lot lately because there's too much, is knitting. I like to knit. And I do know there are podcasts on knitting.
Okay.
And then like Real Housewives. And I know that there are podcasts
There are for
on
sure.
Real Housewives. Yeah. I don't know if I should call that a hobby.
An interest.
Based on the people that like I hear, like I don't watch any reality TV for the most part, and I certainly don't watch Real Housewives, but like some of the podcasts I listen to, people love them and they are adamant about them. Like they know everything there is to know. So it's
My
a hobby.
husband will watch, and he doesn't watch, and I'm using air quotes if you're just listening. He's like, I don't watch it. I read the paper while you're doing that. But so wait, what happened to her? Did they get did they get divorced? What did that happen? Is Mauricio, did he move out? Is Kyle on her own? So you are paying attention. Yes,
Right.
I know.
Please
That's like me and my daughter when she used to watch the Kardashians. Like, I don't watch this stuff, but what did she say? What is she doing now?
I never understood. I'm like, the Real Housewives, why would you be friends and go on vacation with people that you don't like? I never understood that until my kids went to elementary school. And then I went, oh, it's real. Like, it is real because I'm watching this happen where you're all crap talking each other and then you go to Hawaii together. And that is just crazy. So it happens in real life. And that's probably why I'm obsessed of, oh yeah, let me see it play out in real life too.
Yeah.
That'll be my next book.
What would be your obscure hobby or interest, Jennifer, that you would want to podcast about?
So this is not really an obscure interest. Like there are a lot of people that have this interest, and there are podcasts out there about this, but I want something very specific. I love Star Wars. I love Marvel. I love Hunger Games. I love all of this pop culture stuff. And I want a podcast, and maybe I'll just start one, where we can talk about those things and like the symbolism of how they apply to the world without a whole bunch of white men trying to tell me. Like my son and I were discussing Star Wars in the grocery line, and this guy, the checkout person, words are escaping me. Yeah, great for being on a podcast. But anyway, he was like trying to tell me all this stuff about the original Star Wars. And I'm like, dude, I was born in 1975. I have been watching the original Star Wars since before you were born. Do not tell me what I do and do not know about Star Wars, please. And so then my son and I started talking about the symbolism of some other such and such and what this means. And like that man shut his mouth so fast. And so I just want, and it's not that men could not be on it. It's just you can't be one of those guys that are like, I know everything there is to know about Star Wars and I'm not going to listen to anything. No, just I want to have good discussions about Star Wars and Marvel that don't incorporate toxic masculinity. I think that's it.
Yeah. I think you should start that podcast. That sounds really interesting. I don't know if this would work for a podcast, but I would love something that would help me figure out what the hell to make for dinner. I don't know. I don't know what that is.
Chat GPT.
There's that. Yeah.
You can just throw in what you have in the house into the ingredients, and it will tell you something. I might have used that before. Yeah. I'm like, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do here. That's the one time it's handy. Yeah.
That would be good. But I also need like commiseration. I need other people who are worried about dinner to talk with me about the fact that it's bullshit that we have to decide every damn day what to make for dinner. Anyways,
I do have a shared Google Doc with some mom friends from soccer that we throw in our recipes for weeknight meals, slow cooker meals. Mm-hmm. So if I'm out of ideas, I will pull that up and see what are other people making.
That's a great idea. Do you know, I had a friend, and I don't know if she still does this, but she had teamed up with another family, and then they together did food planning so that they would make dinner for both families, and they would have a night they would make dinner, and then so you'd have half the amount of time that you had to worry about dinner. But then you have to know food allergies and what each person in the family likes and doesn't like and all of that stuff. Like, so it'd probably be hard to do that. But I thought that was super interesting and cool from like a mutual aid sort of community care kind of perspective.
Mm-hmm. And it probably doesn't take that much more time to make double the recipe.
Right.
And it certainly doesn't take more time than it does to make a new recipe every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I made chili the other day and there's so much damn chili. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with it. It's like filling up my freezer right now. There's no way we're going to be able. It's like, how do you make a little bit of chili? I have no idea. But anyhow, well, thank you. I hope that those podcasts exist someday for you all. Michelle, thank you so much for your time today and for joining our pod. Where can we direct people to find out more information about you?
Thank you. I had so much fun with you both. You can find me I've got two websites, the MLGcollective.com and michelleglogovac.com. And I am at Michelle Glogovac on all of the socials. I'm everywhere. You can find me.
I am not hard to find. Awesome. It was so nice meeting you. And I just really appreciated this conversation today. And thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in. This is the Beyond Resistance Pod, where we share hard-won insights to build blue power and red communities and start winning. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody. You can listen to the Beyond Resistance podcast on all major platforms. Leave us a review to boost this episode and help us reach more blue dots and red Cs. Follow us on social media and like, share, comment to increase our reach. Subscribe to our Patreon and gain access to our private Discord channel and make monetary donations of support through Venmo. You can find all of this and more at beyondresistancepod.com. Beyond Resistance is a Beyond Resistance LLC production. Producers Jennifer Austin and Sarah Schultz. Editing Jennifer Austin. Theme song We Run the Room by Shadow Kitten.